Many of you may or may not know that the EOS R has a sensor problem. And before you get upset and start attacking me, just hang on a second. There's a history behind this, and this is not the first time I've seen it. And in the past, when I've reported these problems, something usually good comes from it. So before you start attacking me, let me tell you the story. Let me invite you to do the poll. So if you have the same sensor problem, let's just do the poll. Let's collect some data. Let's report it to Canon, and maybe we'll see something improve. So let me tell you the story in terms of what happened with the 5D Mark IV. I was a longtime 5D shooter, 5D1, 5D2, 5D3. For most of my career, that was my primary camera. 5D Mark IV comes along, test it with my dynamic range test, and I see this weird streaking across the frame from part of the test strip. Long story short, I went through 4 different copies of that camera. They all had it, and I posted a video about it, posted a blog article in terms of what was going on and what the defect was. And we had 400 people answer the poll. 50% of them were seeing the problem. I took all this data, went to Canon's forum, reported it as a post to Canon in their forum, and it was taken down. I don't know what happened. Twice that I posted it and it disappeared. Canon has since found the video and they made a comment, hey, we didn't do anything. I can't say what happened there. So I went to their Facebook page and talked to somebody in their customer service, gave them the data, and they told me that they had forwarded it to the engineer team, and that was the end of it that I heard from Canon. But if you go back and you read the comments on those 2 videos with the sensor defect for the 5D Mark IV, many of those users sent the cameras into Canon, and when they got them back, the problem was fixed. Okay, so this tells me a couple things. That in the 5D Mark IV, it wasn't in every sensor. Okay, so it's probably a manufacturing issue. Number 2, it tells me that Canon's probably aware of it. Number 3, it tells me that if they're aware of it and they can fix it, they probably will. And number 4 is that if you are using the camera and you are satisfied with it, it's not going to affect you anyway because you're not going to complain about it and send it in. As a landscape photographer who's pushing his RAW files, I cannot use the EOS R for the type of shooting that I do. That's not to say it doesn't work for you. It could very well work for you and you can be completely happy with it. So the way that you do the test is you basically overexpose part of the frame. On the 5D Mark IV is the left side. On the EOS R, I'm seeing it on both sides of the frame. And that overexposure should be surrounded by something in shadows. Okay, so bring that in to RAW, add 1 to 2 stops of exposure, and then lift the shadows all the way up. And if you have the sensor problem, you should see some strange banding or streaking across the frame. If you see that problem, look at the poll, just answer yes or no, and then we'll get a good idea in terms of how many of these cameras are affected. So I've been doing this for a while and I have pretty thick skin. You know, when the A9 came out, Sony's flagship, it had a focusing defect in that you couldn't do a burst and zoom in on a moving subject. It would drop focus. And so what happened was I published that video. I had over 100 negative comments, personal attacks, name calling, you're stupid, okay. And sure enough, 2 months later, here comes the firmware update, and the rack zoom problem has now been fixed in this A7 III. So don't hate me so much for measuring and reporting. I'm trying to give you guys good information, and I think that's what makes my channel stand out, is I use scientific tests to measure numbers. I am not part of the promotional arm of camera companies. So in any event, if you have an EOS R, please test it out. Put your information into the poll, yes or no, do you have it? And let's get this data to Canon and see if they'll do something about it. In any event, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.